Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here, and you are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down. There's no seats for you, but you can sit on the floor and let's talk. Welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. It's a really special time to be following this channel because it's a really special time to be a fan of DC films and DC content. It really is so exciting. Now, I want to talk about Kevin Sugihara and Bad Robot and the role that Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams and his wife allegedly played in Kevin Sugihara being removed as the head of Warner Brothers. Now, I was kind of deaf and blind to this kind of story because the first time I heard rumblings about it was on Twitter when people were kind of saying, well, maybe J.J. Abrams could direct the new Superman movie. And I'm thinking, well, that would be fun. I love J.J. Abrams. I've loved J.J. Abrams since he did Alias. I think the man's a genius. I was a bit blind, but so I've been reading up about it. I'm not going to read an article about it. I'm just going to really discuss it and discuss my thoughts on the situation. So Kevin Sugihara allegedly had an affair, slept with a woman, then gave her a job, cast her in a role, whatever he did, right? First of all, let me tell you whether you agree with this practice or don't agree with that. That is not sexual harassment. She consented to have sexual relations with him, and he consented to get her a job, right? This has been happening since the creation of Hollywood. I don't agree with it. I don't. I think it's absolutely outrageous. I genuinely don't agree with it. But what rules is it actually breaking here? If you sacked every man who gave a woman a role because she slept with him, or if you sacked every woman who gave a guy a role because he slept with her, there would be no one left in Hollywood. You wouldn't be able to make any films. Everyone, and I mean everyone in powerful positions in Hollywood is doing it. They shouldn't be doing it. And maybe we can change that mentality. Now, what's interesting here is, of course, AT&T, who bought Warner Brothers and now calling it Warner Media. Now, this is very interesting because they come from a different mentality. They come from a customer service background. They come from a mentality where the customer is always right. And I mean, I've really looked into them. So they really want to please the audience and they want to look clean. In a lot of ways, it's the Disney mentality, isn't it? If you don't have our morality, you can't work for our company. And this was the issue with James Gunn, even though they brought him back one last time. I think with Warner Media, they're not used to this. Oh, right. They're not used to the way Hollywood works. And they are a customer-based company. So they want to try and change the mentality of Warner Brothers to that way. And actually, this is a very unique situation because no one's ever done this before. And this is why I said the AT&T's acquisition of Warner Brothers was a bigger moment for Warner Brothers than Disney buying Fox was for Disney, because I just thought the change of mentality was very interesting. And I think, so why am I talking about this? Because, of course, Warner Media own DC characters. They're making these films. So it's very important to any DC fan to understand the workings and the mentalities of the company who own Warner Brothers. So I'm very excited by this. Do I believe Kevin Sugihara should have been sacked for sleeping with another woman and then giving her a movie gig? No, I don't, because that means I want everyone to be sacked in Hollywood, right? Because what they're doing is wrong too. You know, it's absolutely outrageous he was sacked. But before you all start unsubscribing, I understand the way he ran the DCEU, DC Films, was an absolute joke. He just made the whole outfit look unprofessional. And what he did with Justice League summed him up. And from that moment onwards, I'm alleging this. This is not what Warner Brothers are saying, but I believe that Warner Brothers, the knives were out for Kevin Sugihara from that moment onwards. And I just feel that, yes, it was a good day that he left the company and that he has no power at Warner Brothers anymore. It's a good day. I still don't agree with him being fired for the reason he was, but they had to find something, didn't they? So it's really good. So basically, allegedly, Bad Robot pressured J.J. Abrams, Bad Robot, which is J.J. Abrams' company, and J.J.'s wife pressured him and said, unless you fire him, we won't be involved with Warner Brothers anymore. Now, Warner Brothers and Robot's involvement with each other isn't really that extensive. They don't really work with each other that much. There are projects they work with each other on. I think obviously J.J. Abrams isn't a guy you'd want to upset. He has a great influence in the industry. But I think there's more to this than meets the eye. Wouldn't surprise me if J.J. Abrams' wife gets Kevin Sugihara's job. Yes, that's how Hollywood works. You never turn your back in Hollywood. That's the same. But yes, so that wouldn't surprise me. That would really, really excite me if we could get her in and J.J. Abrams really in with the DCEU. I'd love him to do Superman. I think he could make a great Superman. I think what he proved with Star Trek 2009 is that he can make a great version of Star Trek with new actors, right? But honouring what went before, creating this Kelvin timeline, which means the original Star Trek, right, is still there, but you're implementing a new kind of version of it, but still saying that the other version existed. I like that. It's the cleverest thing a filmmaker has ever done by rebooting a property. I love Star Trek 2009. Of course, people have issues with Into Darkness. I have a couple of issues with it, but I still think it's a really good film. So J.J. Abrams being involved with the DCEU and maybe writing and directing a Superman movie is really exciting to me. As a massive Superman fan, he's my favourite character. J.J. Abrams was the guy who wrote and created Alias. He was heavily involved in that show. It was his baby. Obviously, other people were involved in. Once he became more popular and more wanted by other studios and companies, obviously he didn't work on the show as much, but it was his baby. I love that show, by the way. Alias was an amazing show. J.J. Abrams did amazing work with Lost when the show first started, when the development stage first started. A lot of the ideas were his. He brought on Damon Lindelof, who is a very, very talented creative as well. So J.J. Abrams is a really, really talented guy. And I would absolutely welcome his involvement, not only within the DCEU, but kind of reshaping Superman for the future, because I absolutely believe that he would cast a new Superman. Maybe that decision has already been made. This is how I feel about J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. I think after Star Wars Episode 9, their involvement with Lucasfilm and Disney will cease. It just hasn't been a happy bedfellows. We know with everything that's gone on there, it hasn't, so they won't work together again. Now, that will be an ending, a big ending. He's been heavily involved with Disney, whether it's been with ABC TV, with the making of Alias and Lost, or what he's been doing with Star Wars. He's been literally involved with them all his career. So it will be a very big deal for him, and he will be looking for another company to get into bed with, so to speak. And I think that company is Warner Brothers. And I think, like James Gunn and Suicide Squad, Disney's loss is Warner Brothers' game. I know that James Gunn's gone back to do that final Guardians of the Galaxy. And the same with him as J.J. Abrams. He won't work with Disney again afterwards. It's too uncomfortable. He's just going back to finish his baby, if you want. And then he'll join Warner Brothers full-time as well. And he'll probably get a first-look deal. So I'm very excited by that. I think he will join Warner Brothers. It'll be interesting what happens with the who becomes the head of Warner Brothers. So keep an eye on that, because whatever happens with that is so important to the DCEU and DC films. Right, so it's official now. Shazam has been certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm so excited. 93% after over 80 reviews. That is a great achievement. Now, we need to talk about this new mentality of these New Line Cinema guys running DC films, Walter Hamada and Peter Safran. The more I hear from Safran, the more I like. Safran was at the premiere of Shazam, and they asked him, is the way they did Shazam the way forward and the way they'll be making the other DCEU properties? And he said, listen, I think finally us and DC agree, and that's interesting. I think there was obviously a lot of extensive conversations after Batman v Superman, and I think how to get things right, because obviously DC Comics said, yeah, you own us, Warner Brothers, but we don't like the way you're representing us. We need to have a plan here. So Peter Safran said, yes, us and DC finally agree that each each tone to each film should be its own entity. So Shazam should be a lighter film with funny moments, but of course having some darker and dramatic elements in it. But then he talked about Batman, because they asked him, yeah, you know, you're doing these lighter films. Is that the way you're going now? He goes, no, listen, Batman is a darker tone character, so his films will be darker. And the Joker, now, that's very important. We're getting a Joker movie in October, and he says that, you know, a character like the Joker should have a darker movie. So obviously that sets a good precedent for this franchise going forward, because what he's saying is the tone of each DC film will vary depending on that character. In other words, it's exactly what I've been saying. DC films now will be universes within a universe. That's vital, that's very important, and he's literally confirmed it. So I'm very, very excited by that. I am just so excited by having these New Line Cinema guys, Peter Safran and Walter Hamada, running DC films. Not just the DCEU, but DC films in general. I just think these guys come from a smaller film mentality, and that can only be an advantage for DC films. Anyone who's seen Shazam will tell you, I'll tell you, because this film is made with a smaller budget of $80 to $90 million, but you can't tell by watching the film. But what that does is, let's be honest about this, let's talk about David F. Sandberg. Just not 10 years ago, David F. Sandberg was a YouTuber making small independent films on his YouTube channel. He had a YouTube channel. That's what he was doing. Now he's just finished directing a DC superhero movie. It can be done. So this is what I'm saying. Social media, for anyone, can be a place. If you've got the talent, you can get to it. But what I'm saying to you is, a guy who was a YouTuber not 10 years ago making short films is now probably going to make one of the most, well, he has made one of the most popular, successful films, superhero films ever made, because this film is going to make loads of money, right? So that's amazing. That means the mentality of Peter Safran and Walter Hamada is it doesn't matter about reputations. Now, obviously, David F. Sandberg is someone that they've worked with before. James Wan is someone that they've worked with before. So they will be going down this avenue of working with these kind of smaller filmmakers, but they are people that they know. But wouldn't it be really interesting if they, because that's what New Line Cinema do, by the way. They recruit kind of filmmakers that are filmmakers. They don't recruit reputations. So David F. Sandberg wasn't really a reputation. He was a guy we know who directed Lights Out and other prominent films. But the point is, he's never kind of directed a tentpole movie. So obviously to them, it was never a risk. I think from the outside looking in, you think, is this the right guy? Can he do it? But obviously he can. So what happens is, when you're working in this close-knit creative community and everyone trusts each other, something very, very special happens. And I just think the mentality of Safran and Hamada is a very encouraging one. It's a very positive one, and I'm really excited that finally, I didn't even know Peter Safran was involved with the DCEU until the marketing for Shazam started, and that really excited me because of his reputation. But what he's been doing is something that we've never ever had since the build-up to Man of Steel. Someone coming out talking about the DC movies. Now we've got a guy coming out saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. This is our mentality now. We've been talking, everything. This guy is just constantly talking about the films, the way that Kevin Feige talks about the MCU films. Finally, we have someone being vocal, letting us know. That's why the rumours have subsided. It's really difficult for YouTubers now who kind of rely, their bread and butter is on like reporting rumours, because there aren't really many DCEU rumours. They still come out, but most of them you can either kind of confirm or deny very, very quickly. So a lot of things are changing very, very quickly. New Line Cinema running DC films was the right decision. Hamada and Safran being put in charge was the right decision. things are turning around. We've got the right people in the right places, and it absolutely is an exciting time to be a DC fan. I'm very excited. I am. All I want now is an announcement that we're finally going to get the Superman film we've all dreamed about since we were kids.